This is probably going to be one of the most valuable episodes in terms of nutrition that I've ever once done, because we're going to break everything down in the simplest way possible. I'm going to be talking about calories, I'm going to be talking about macronutrients, but most importantly, I'm going to be teaching you guys why you should not be worried about your carbohydrates or your fats. Now, here's the thing. We have been coaching people for over the past 7 years. We've helped over 3,000 members, okay? We've helped out hundreds of these guys, get off their blood pressure and cholesterol medications. We've even helped out dozens of them lower their A1C levels and reverse their type 2 diabetes. In the past 7 years, we never changed anything, okay? So if it's worked, it's going to continue to work, which means that it's going to work for you as well. So hear me out. First off, let's talk about calories, right? Calories is when you're, consuming food or sometimes liquids, right? But it has, sugars or whatever the case may be inside of it, right? And this is where your body is focusing on how to metabolize those calories for energy purposes, for proper use, And so many times, typically people overeat on their calories or undereat on their calories, and this is when they start to store body fat. So I need to explain this before we go into why you shouldn't worry about carbs, why you shouldn't worry about fats, why you should only be focusing on calories and protein. But I want to make this episode, right, everything dialed into nutrition. That way you can just, have this as a great reference. Share this with any of your friends or family members that struggle with nutrition, because this is the easiest thing possible, honestly. And once you understand this, it's going to make so much sense. And for you to understand how calories work better, let me explain using this little glass. So if you're listening to this on, let's say, iTunes or Spotify, first and foremost, thank you for subscribing. But head over to my YouTube channel. And while you're there also, press that little, thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. That way you never miss a future episode. Now, this glass right here, let's just say this is your body, okay? Plain and simple. And if you're pouring liquids in, let's just say water, the liquids is the calories. Now, you need to understand how this structure of this glass is your body and how it metabolizes calories and how it either stores body fats or utilizes body fat, because there's a big difference here, right? So the middle of the glass, right where my finger's at, right in the center, this is, let's say, your maintenance, right? And you're always going to have wiggle room when it comes to your deficits, when it comes to your maintenance, or when it comes to your surplus. There's always going to be wiggle room, right? Nobody can be 100% exact. And plus, think about it, right? Nobody knows exactly how many calories you're burning throughout the course of the day. No fitness tracker can, monitor that. No, nothing, honestly, because day by day it's different, right? You might, decide to take 2 more extra steps and burn an extra calorie or 2, right? It's always going to be, some fluctuations in here. So we like to just share with our members about having wiggle room, so that way it's peace of mind, okay? So now the middle of the glass, this is called your maintenance, which means that in your maintenance, and specifically within that wiggle room, right, your body is not really gaining weight or not really losing weight. It's kind of just maintaining, right? It's weight, right? But then if we go above, right, to the tip of this glass right here, this is called your surplus. Now, I like to just always be upfront and honest with people. Just because somebody's eating a surplus does not mean that they're going to be putting on weight, okay? Or putting on body fat, I should say. They could definitely be putting on weight, but hear me out. So if somebody's eating above their maintenance, but let's say they're eating plenty of protein, let's say they're in the gym, they're focusing on progressive overload, right? The right amount of, frequency and training. Guess what? They could be putting on muscle, right? So regardless, if they're eating in a slight surplus where they're above their maintenance, sure, they could be putting on their muscle. And that's great also, because at the end of the day, that's going to rev up your metabolism and that's going to help you burn body fat overall. That's why we always like to educate anybody, with Heartletics that, there's a big difference between losing weight and losing body fat, right? Somebody could cut out their carbohydrates and lose a whole bunch of water weight, versus somebody that is, let's say, eating plenty of protein, they're, have a well-balanced diet, they're focusing on, strength training and everything like that. They might not lose a lot of weight, but guess what? They could lose a lot of body fat, and their total body composition can change, and obviously improvements on their overall health And that's just what we focus on at Heartletics, is helping people lose body fat specifically. So right up here to the top, right, this is your surplus, as I mentioned. Now remember, the middle of the glass, this is your maintenance. Now below is your deficits. And this is where you want to be at when it comes to losing body fats, when it comes to losing weight. You want to be in your deficits. But now hear me out, okay? This is going to make a lot of sense because most people struggle with, I would say probably 8 out of 10 times somebody applies for our coaching program, they don't struggle because they're overeating and they say it's portion control. They struggle because they're undereating and they have a slow metabolism. So here's exactly how you can gain body fat. All right. So let's just say, we have a glass of, a water bottle or something like that, right? We're dumping in the liquids, right? And it's here at the very bottom of this empty glass and it's rising all the way to the very top. And eventually it spills over. So that's how you're storing body fat, right? And those calories that's coming in, right? It spills over. You're not burning enough to actually, take care and utilize those excess calories. So your body stores it as body fat. Not good. Nobody wants that, right? You're overeating. But remember, 8 out of 10 people that apply for our coaching program, they don't struggle with that. They think they do. Because a lot of people think it's just calories in versus calories out. Trust me, right? Yes, I get it, right? The laws of thermodynamics, right? But there's a lot more to come into play. So when you're putting in, right, those liquid calories into this glass, most people, they're underneath here. And so where is underneath here at? Well, this is well below your deficit. So if let's say, hey, you cut out your carbohydrates, right, a whole macronutrient group, right? Let's say you're on a 1,200, 1,500 calorie diet and you weigh like 250 pounds, right? Or you're doing these detoxes and juice cleanse, whatever the case may be. You're way underneath here. Well, guess what? If you're there, your body's not getting enough proper macronutrients nor enough calories to actually maintain its muscle. So what's going on here? Well, if you're down here for a long period of time, you're losing your muscle. And when you lose your muscle, you're increasing your body fat to compensate. So remember, if you're overeating on your calories, you're storing body fat. And if you're undereating on your calories, right, and not getting enough proper macronutrients in, you are also increasing your body fat because you're losing your metabolism and that's slowing down, you're losing your muscle and that's slowing down your metabolic rates. Not good at all, okay? So now that we understand calories, let's better explain, obviously, macronutrients. So your macronutrients, there are 3 of them, and then there's the 4th one, which is kind of hidden, right? So your first one is your protein, and then you have carbohydrates, and then you have your fats. And then the 4th one that's hidden is alcohol, right? And so when it comes down to your overall macronutrients, protein, 1 gram is equal to 4 calories. Carbohydrate, 1 gram is equal to 4 calories. Your fats, right, 1 gram is equal to 9 calories. And when it comes to alcohol, 1 gram is equal to 7 calories. So if you ever look on the back of a nutritional facts label, right, and it shows all these different, grams and equals the calories at the top, that's just how it's kind of figuring out, right? So what we always like to educate and teach our members on, right, is your calories. Once again, there's plus or minus of some couple hundred calories. We try to get people as close as possible, right? But we always like to say some wiggle room of their goal is like 200 to 300 calories. Just because at the end of the day, once again, they don't want to undereat, but also they don't want to overeat. So we like to just keep them there. But also their protein, right? Protein is very, very important because 1, it's higher up on the thermic effect of food, which means that the more protein that you're consuming, odds are you're going to, 1, be satiated. You're going to feel full longer, which is great. But also 2, it takes more calories to actually burn through, right? Those proteins, right? The amino acids. So it's actually like you're eating more protein, but also you're burning more calories, right? You're getting your body to work harder for you, so to speak. And there's so many different profiles of protein, right? When it comes to putting on lean muscle tissue, improving metabolic rate, testosterone levels, everything like that, right? So we always recommend that somebody sticks within their protein goal or goes above it if they can. And if you're listening in and you don't know what your protein goal is, we always like to say this is take your body weight and just multiply it by 0.8. That's going to give you the bare minimum. And then at the very top, right, it's just like, hey, so what's the maximum of protein I should be eating? Well, take your body weight and multiply it by 1.5. That's going to be the max amount of protein that we recommend. But we always just like to keep it simple. It's like, hey, try your best to have at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. In the very beginning stages, especially if you have a slow metabolism, and that's going to take anywhere from about, 3 to 6 weeks based on consistency with your training and with your nutrition before it revs up and gets faster again. So if you have a slow metabolism, just understand this, eating all that protein, it's going to be hard. You're going to feel full, you're going to feel bloated, and that's totally understandable, okay? But once again, the more consistent you are, the easier it gets. You're going to start noticing that you're feeling hungrier. And guess what? That is a great sign right there that your metabolism is speeding up. But for protein, remember, bare minimum, body weight times 0.8, but we recommend at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, okay? Now that that's out of the equation, right? We talked about the calories, we talked about protein. That's all we really try to keep our members to focus on. Why? Well, for starters, the carbs and fats, they're not really necessary, and I'll talk about that here in a split second. But understand this is just like in this game of life, so to speak, we have balance, right? So there's, family life, there's our occupations, there's all this. Nobody wants to go around and being so fixated on, oh, I got to eat this and be accurate in this, my carbs, and be accurate at this and my fats. And, it's too strict. And we don't believe in that at Heartletics. We believe in flexibility, right? We believe in like, hey, it's okay to eat your favorite foods and fit it in, right? As long as you're within your calorie range and as long as you're hitting your protein goal. It's easier for someone to actually do that and consistently do that over a period of time rather than somebody has to be so focused, right? I don't believe that's fun at all. And also at the same time, if you're not able to fit in your favorite foods, well, hey, guess what? Like that's on a strict diet, right? And odds are that's not having a healthy relationship with food, because now you're going to start looking at food as good food versus bad food. And we don't want that within anybody, right? So we like to preach that, hey, food equals fuel. So if you're focusing on your calories, you're focusing on protein, you're going to be A-okay. Now, let's talk about carbs and fats and why we tell people, don't even worry about it. In fact, even the people that get off their medications, reverse their type 2 diabetes, we really tell them like, hey, don't worry so much about the carbs also, For those people that are diabetics, we like to educate them about the glycemic index, which just shows like which carbohydrates, right, are going to spike your insulin levels. So that way they're aware of that. But here's the thing, right? You can obviously manipulate stuff, right? So in terms of if you're having a carbohydrate, let's say white rice, that is higher up on the glycemic index. If you mix that with a healthy fat, which is slow digesting the fats, it's going to take those numbers down. So maybe mixing it with like an avocado, boom, now it's not going to spike your insulin so much, right? So that's why I like to just say there's a lot of flexibility when it comes into play. But carbs are energy sources. Fats are energy sources. That's really what you need to understand, okay? Now, carbohydrates, right, they're not essential, meaning like your body can run without having carbohydrates in it. Your body does need protein and your body does need fats. Those are essential. But for the majority of the people that get the best results at Heartletics, we like to teach them about having a healthy balance of proteins, carbs, and obviously fats included as well, right? And so when it comes down to carbohydrates, these are great energy sources, but also other things in terms of like how it kind of helps you out with, let's just say, your metabolic rates, how it helps you out with testosterone levels. For me personally, right, if you're in the gym, if you're working out, carbohydrates help you with recovery, right? It also helps you with better sleep. So I typically save the majority of my carbohydrates before I go to bed, right? I like having a big bowl of, let's say, like oatmeal or something like that, protein oats before I go to sleep. It makes me sleep better, and obviously for me personally, what works best for my lifestyle is working out first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. So when I go to sleep with my belly being full of carbs, I can obviously wake up and still have all the, energy from the night prior, right, as used as glycogen stores to fill my workouts, right, and fuel it. So it's just one of these things that we like to just educate our members on, what works best for you. And that's, the reason why our community groups are so amazing at Heartletics is because you can kind of figure out what works best for all these other people. And then it's just like trial and error, right? It's just trying to figure out the missing pieces that work best for you. Now, fats are slow digesting, right? So once again, carbohydrates are typically, faster when it comes to digesting. Great energy sources. There are your simple carbohydrates, your complex carbohydrates, right? But then there's fats. Fats are slow digesting. And when I say that they're essential, I don't mean that you need an abundance of, fats. You don't, right? You don't need to go low carb and start eating like a ketogenic diet where 75% of your daily calories are coming from fats. No, keep it between, I would say, 15 to maybe 25% of your daily calories, right? 30 max coming from fats. And then, obviously just focus on hitting your protein goal. And then, you have your calories. And then obviously fill in the rest with the carbohydrates. But regardless, don't focus on that, right? They're all going to just fall into place, especially if you're only focusing on your calories and your protein. Because remember, that's easy to do. That's sustainable for the long run, right? So long story short, right? Calories, focus on that first and foremost, right? Like you remember the glass analogy, you can't overeat, right? But remember, you don't want to undereat regardless also. The protein, right? Focus on having at least, the bare minimum. Take your body weight, multiply by 0.8. That's the bare minimum of protein that you need, but we recommend at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And remember also, right, if you have a slow metabolism, it's going to be tough at first, but over time, it gets a lot easier the more consistent you are with hitting your protein goals. And then obviously, when it comes down to carbohydrates and fats, they're just different energy sources. It's nothing that is going to change, right, and move the needle, right? Obviously, yes, there is, I like to say manipulation at play because somebody could cut out their carbohydrates. Carbs store water within the body. So obviously, if they just want to see the number on the scale go down, sure, they could go ahead and cut out their carbohydrates, but that's not going to change their body fat percentage. Okay, so just keep that in mind, just an FYI. Typically, what we always see for the last 7 years of coaching thousands of different members, the people that have a well-structured balance, which is typically they're staying within their calorie range, they're eating high amount of protein, they're having moderate carb, moderate to low fats. These people honestly typically have the best results. And it's not just in terms of their body composition because they reach their goals in terms of, body fat percentage, and they reach their goals in terms of how they look and how they feel, but they also, right, get the best results in terms of sustainability, right? Because it's easier to fit it in. It's easier to fit in your favorite foods when you're focused on having a structure like that. But regardless, once again, and just like how I started, calories and protein, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. If you just focus on that, I promise you, you're going to get the results you're looking for. No ifs, ands, or buts.